Sometimes. Okay, we are live on YouTube. So excited to get started here. Yeah. So I hope everyone's doing well. And I just want to first say thank you so much for your patience. Before I introduce the topic for today, thank you so much for your patience. I had a last minute sort of thing that happened this morning, which is why I couldn't go live at the usual time of 8:30 a.m. So here I am, 12:15 p.m. And I'm just going to put this out there that my schedule has been making some shifts. So I'm going to be switching the time probably to this time for some time, if that makes sense. Already trying to find my words, right? And my schedule is making a shift, and I need to offload certain things, switch some things around on different days, times, whatnot, right? That is life, right? That is life. And sometimes we don't like the change, but we're going to just see how it goes. That's all we can do, right? We can just see how it goes. So I appreciate your patience and your support as always. And if this is your first time watching me, I am Liz Philippone. I am the moderator of the Facebook group Mindfully Fit for Life. And of course, this is my YouTube channel. If you're watching from the YouTube channel, I help people stay strong, confident, and independent by combining evidence-based training with mindful movement and nervous system support. I'm a multi-certified fitness and yoga professional specializing in strength, mobility, and corrective exercise for midlife and older adults. My approach focuses on building resilience, not perfection. So clients can move better, reduce pain, and continue doing what they love for years to come. Pardon me, I am getting over a cold. Can't you tell? Yeah. So let's just dig into it. Just a couple of housekeeping things. Well, I already talked about that I will be changing the time of this. I'm looking at February 12th. Yes. But actually, I think I'm just going to change it to February 5th. That's next Thursday. So instead of 8:30 a.m., it'll be 12:15 p.m. All right. And also, with that being said, what are we going to talk about today? Does anybody know? Do you know what the title is of this whole thing? So this is basically, why a strong foundation matters. Why having a steady foundation, having a more steady foundation is better than doing more. Yeah. So if movement is feeling harder, less steady, or more draining than it used to, you're not alone. I'm going to ask, is that you? If you're watching live or the replay, I would love to hear your take on that. But you're not alone. So this isn't about doing more workouts. It's about just moving better, paying attention to your foundation, right? And I'm going to get into what that means in a moment. All right. So it's not about six-pack abs. It's not about having like perfect flexibility and mobility. It's not about high-intensity workouts. Okay. A strong foundation is about alignment, stability, balance, body awareness, and nervous system support. Okay, I know that was a long list. I'll say it again. Strong foundation is about alignment in your spine, stability within your core structure, balance, body awareness. So your body awareness, not just like, okay, my body's here, your awareness in space, okay, and nervous system support, right? Because I do talk a lot about the nervous system when I work with clients, whether it's in my group sessions or my one-on-one sessions. When I'm working one-on-one with people, especially preliminarily, I teach people like your nervous system is so connected to your mobility, to your posture, right? It's all so connected. It affects how you move, all right? Especially if you've been injured, okay? You've been through an injury, a surgery, okay? When certain movements happen and it might trigger a certain response in your nervous system where it's telling the brain like protect, 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 right? You know, like you hurt your shoulder or you had shoulder surgery, right? And this could have been years and years ago. And it's just a certain movement might just trigger that muscle memory, like, you know, and it tightens up and then you're like, what the hell? Right? Does that ever happen to you? Let me know in the comments. It happens to me. So your foundation determines how efficiently your body handles daily movement, walking, standing, lifting, getting up and down, off the floor, even out of a chair. So what I'm really going to talk about today is posture. I know, so interesting, right? What do you, when I say posture, I always ask people this, when I say posture, what do you automatically do? Stand up straight, sit up straight, right? You engage your core, roll your shoulders back, right? Sometimes we hyperextend, right? Depending on our upbringing. I'm just going to tell you that. Like, how many times did your mom ever say to you at the dinner table, sit up straight, you know? And now we end up with like hyperextension. And of course, if you were a dancer or another type of mover like me, you were always like trying to be poised and project, you know, that way. Yeah. So much fun, right? But posture is not just about standing straight and standing upright, you know, and this is something else that I talk about in my 12-week Power Up Your Strength program. And I am going to reveal something at the end of this, my foundational series, just a little thing I'm putting out there. But posture is also what I address. I mean, I address both of these things. I talked about the nervous system, but like initially it's posture awareness. And there's some education around posture that I give. And I'm going to share a few of those things today, you know, why it's important and what you can do. How can we make our foundation better? Okay. And I'm sorry, I didn't even like include those 3 points in the beginning of this live stream. I'm totally coming, you know, out of a total head cold. So there you go. That's my excuse. But, you know, with that being said, right, it's not about just standing up straight. It's how your body organizes itself against gravity. I'm going to say that one again because it's important. It's how your body organizes itself against gravity. As we get older, gravity gets heavier. And it's just the years and years of postural habits, right? It constantly changes. Sitting, standing, walking, exercising, right? Your levels, right? You're sitting or you're coming from the floor. There's a lot of gravity you have to push through. And as we get older, it's harder, right? Because of our structure, our muscles, especially if our muscles are getting weak, we're losing that muscle mass, right? It accelerates as we get older. Those things get harder, even just standing. I was teaching my SEAT class this morning, supported exercise for ageless training. There is a track in that whole class called Sit to Stand. It's power. It takes power, but also that alignment, right? And you're going from a seated position to a standing position. It's gravity. There's gravity all around us. Okay. It can help us, but it can work against us too. So why does posture matter? So poor posture can lead to balance challenges when you're balancing. So if you're you're dealing with like bad posture, I'm just going to give the example of the rounded shoulder position and your head's jutting forward a lot. I'm over exaggerating, but there are people who do stand like this. I'm thinking of my Nana, God bless her. But she was like this, right? So what's going to happen? You're prone to have that being off balance and then falling, right? Because all your weight is pushed forward, right? That's just one example. Poor posture can also lead to joint strain, right? When things are out of alignment and they're out of alignment for a long time, like years, and we don't know because we only know what we know and what we feel. We can't see inside our bodies, right? We do our best, but it can strain the joints. And then over time, right, it may lead to joint replacements or just other joint strain injuries. It also poor posture can lead to muscle overwork. I'm going to give another term for that. Muscle overuse. I'm going to go back to the rounded position. These muscles here are working so hard to keep you from like falling, to keep you up, right? Then these muscles weaken, right? Which these muscles back here are the ones that are going to support us, keep our spine, in its alignment, right? Because we all have different structures, but it's going to keep it in a better, healthier alignment. If we're here and then we're jutting our heads forward and then all these muscles here in the neck get very overworked and these back here get very, very weak, and then that leads to things such as, not just musculoskeletal injuries and joint strains, but even the balance challenge, right? Which I mentioned, you're more prone to fall forward. And then of course, poor posture can lead to fatigue, right? It's tiring, right? It's just, you get more tired, right? Like, and you notice, like if you have that slump position, this does not feel energizing at all to me. When I'm more upright, it does feel a little bit more energizing, uplifting. And also lastly is it leads to that decreased lack of confidence in general movement, right? Confidence is huge. Do not feel confident when I'm like rounded here. Absolutely not. So let me know in the comments if this makes sense. Do you have any comments about all those things I just said? Let me know. Excuse me. So I told you what poor posture can lead to. What does good posture help us do, right? It helps our muscles work together instead of compensating, right? So if we are out of alignment, right? And we may not know that, so it takes a lot of body awareness, believe me, and a lot of working with the right practitioner, okay? You're not going to get, I'm just going to say this, you're not going to get the attention you may want in a group class about this, right? Because in a group class, the instructor has to address everybody in the room, right? It's when you get that one-on-one time, or it's a specific group class where the instructor, everybody's kind of doing the thing, right, that the instructor is facilitating and guiding you on, but they are walking around and they may stop you and correct you, that kind of thing, and point out things to you. That's another way I work. It's called small group training, but it's really like you're getting individualized attention in a group setting. Everybody's doing the same workout, but you're getting attention from the trainer because it's a small group class. In a larger group class, not so much, right? So, and I just wanted to make that distinction. Because I know sometimes we're like, well, I go and I exercise and I do this and that and this. And it's like, yeah, but in what environment, right? So when you get that one-on-one attention from a specific practitioner, right? So I have a background in corrective exercise. I look at I look subjectively, right? With my eyes, like how people are moving. Like if people shift to one side, the body pulls to one side, I can sort of get an idea like, oh, these muscles over here are definitely compensating to hold this, to keep the spine safe, to keep the whole body structure safe. But those poor muscles, right, that are compensating, right, they're just getting overworked. Good posture helps with your energy, believe it or not. Your energy just feels smoother and you feel less drained, right, overall, because everything's flowing, right? I'm not saying this is perfect posture. I'm just saying good, efficient posture, right? It changes all the time because of gravity and how we move. And I'm going to say hydration, nutrition, all that stuff, right, affects all these things. Also, movement just feels safer and you feel more confident, right? If you're feeling like unsteady, unbalanced, tired, you might not feel confident, right? When you go to a exercise class, right? Where you have to move, even a stretching class sometimes people feel not very confident because they feel like they're either going to strain something or they're just not going to do something right? So key thing here about that what I just talked about, posture is how your body sets itself up for success or struggle. Because I didn't say good or bad, right? Posture in general is how your body sets itself up for success or struggle. I know. Take a breath on that one, yeah? This is good stuff. I have to say, if I may say so myself. Okay, let me know if there's any questions, right? And when I talk about, I'm going to just really talk briefly, quick about confidence, right? With posture and how it affects your confidence. I mean, and I already said these, but I'm just going to reiterate it and repeat it as balance, right? Especially as we age, we want to feel confident as we age. We want to feel that we have a good sense of balance, right? We can't control all the factors sometimes involved, especially now. It is like winter here. It is like so cold and snowy out and icy, all those factors sometimes we cannot help, right? But we can at least have that awareness to be like, okay, it's icy out there. I'm going to make sure I am poised enough, as steady as I can be to go out into those elements. Also walking, right? Walking with confidence. When your posture is good, you walk more steadier and smoother and with a good stride, right? A better stride instead of maybe shuffling because you're afraid you're going to fall, right? Especially, and I'm just going to say, because I mentioned ice and snow, you might do some shuffling. I'm just going to say that because I shuffle my feet sometimes when I'm walking through a parking lot or somewhere, right? I'm not on non-icy ground. I may find myself shuffling for safety, right? But I'm not hunched over when I do it. I try to just kind of do that, right? Also, I mentioned this fear of falling. Maybe you have experienced falls. Or you're afraid you're going to aggravate something in your body that you are already struggling with or have struggled with, right? So again, that awareness of you have this fear, right? Or whatever the fear is, fear of falling, or you're going to aggravate something in your body, right? Is that keeping you from doing some of the things that you want to do and you want to keep doing later in life? And sometimes that posture confidence connection, right? it's sometimes it affects the willingness to just move at all, right? Sometimes we're just like, I should just sit here and not go anywhere today, right? We don't have that. It's just gone. Willingness to move at all. Like, oh, I don't really want to walk today because it's treacherous outside. I get that. I do. I get that. Especially now it's freezing, right? But what else could you do, right? I know it's not desirable, but like shopping malls, you can walk in the shopping mall. You can walk in there when it's closed, like all the stores are closed in the morning. So then you don't have to worry about like, I'm going to go spend money. And usually when it's early in the morning at the mall, there's not a lot of people in there. I mean, probably right now, it's probably like more people, but at least everybody's just walking. You know, you can put your headphones on, you can walk with a friend or your spouse or something. All right. So just a few sort of client examples here, or just what I hear people say is that like, actually, no, sorry, I scratched that. Again, my head cold mind here. I'm moving on. So just taking those things into consideration once again, for when, you know, there's an opportunity to move, or you go to the doctor, right? And they're telling you, you gotta move more, you gotta do this, you gotta do strength training, you gotta walk more, right? Just thinking about all those things that maybe you want to travel, right? Just thinking about all this, you love to travel, you want to keep traveling. Yeah, I had a client, loved to travel, loved it. That was her reason for coming to me. She's like, Liz, I want to travel more. I want to keep traveling. I love to travel. I don't want to stop. How can I travel and do these excursions, you know, and not be in pain at the end of the day, right? We worked on that. We worked on it together, and she did the work herself outside of our sessions, right? I guided her. She did the work outside of her sessions. She went on this like month-long excursion in Europe, you know, with a group, but she went on her own. And because she learned the things that we worked on together, the strengthening, the stretching, the mobility work, she was able to support her body even on vacation. But even prior to that, all the work we did together and what she did prior to it helped her out in her travels. She even almost fell. She told me, she's like, Liz, I almost fell, but I caught myself. And I was like, hey. And she could continue on her vacation. So just to reiterate, a strong foundation is alignment, stability, balance, body awareness, nervous system support, okay? And I teach these all in my programs, especially my 12-week Power Up Your Strength program, which registration will be opening soon. I'm going to get into that in a moment. I also teach at Fitness Vision. This is a local gym nearby here in Albany. Small group training. Yeah. But I want to share real quick that I have my 12-week Power Up Your Strength program, and I start with foundational work. I absolutely do. That's what we start with. It's a hybrid program. All right. That's a hybrid program. And hybrid meaning it's both virtual and in person, or some people do it all virtual. Okay, so it is both, the best of both worlds. But I do have people that I see in person because they need it, or it helps them with their accountability, because that's key too. It's all about the accountability. It's really not about the exercises and the sets and reps. I mean, it's part of it, but it's about showing up. It's holding yourself accountable so that you can achieve the goal you want to achieve. Just like my client who liked to travel. She was determined. And if something didn't work out or something didn't feel good, she let me know. And we said, okay, let's change that, scrap that, we do this instead, right? So, and I know it's 12 weeks, right? It's a 12-week program. It's a commitment, right? But it's a commitment to your longevity. I'm just going to say that. It's a commitment to your longevity and being a little less, or I should say being more pain-free, ache-free. Yeah. So I'm going to get into the other thing real quick about what I'm offering. Okay. I mentioned a series, a 7-day series, briefly at the beginning of this live stream. Excuse me. I'm going to be doing a lot of that. And this series is called Foundation First, 7 days to steady, stable movement. How cool is that? I'm basically taking elements, at least the beginning elements of my Power Up Your Strength program, and sort of taking that piece and giving people an opportunity to try out the beginning. It's like 7 days of let's get your foundation. And it's repeatable too. You could repeat it, right? You could repeat it as many times as you want. There's videos, right? They're very short. But anyway, before I go into that part, what does this series do? Like, what do you want, right? Like, what do you want right now in terms of foundation, posture? You want to feel steady. Who wants to feel steady, right? Do you want to feel more steady and stable in your movement and day-to-day activity? Who doesn't? I do. What this series does is it builds posture, stability, and confidence progressively. Okay? Focuses on foundational movement patterns. Nothing crazy. Supports daily life and your workouts, right? If you already work out, but you've been like, I'm getting injured, I'm feeling more stiff, things are kind of going wacko, it's a good way to reset. It helps people feel grounded, steady, and energized. Steady is the key word here. That's why I put steady in the title of the series. So, if you've been thinking about doing my 12-week Power Up Your Strength and you're sort of, I don't know, it just seems too long to me, or you want to get to know me better and how I work, you can try my Foundation First 7 days to steady, stable movement first. Yeah? Now, before I launch this, because I'm not quite sure, I was thinking of launching this February 15th. I would love for you to comment steady so I can see if this is something needed within this community or perhaps others. Maybe you know somebody who needs this. Maybe you're good. Maybe you're like, oh no, Liz, I got my foundation down. However, I do know somebody who does. I want to know. I want your feedback, okay? Before I give any more information out. And of course, if you're like, no, I want to step up my game, I am opening my 12-week Power Up Your Strength transformational program February 16th. Okay? And if you want to set up a call with me on that, you can do that as well. I know people on YouTube, again, comment steady if you want to know more information. If you want to set up a call, I'm going to put my call link in the description of the YouTube video. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for your flexibility with the time on this. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.